Oh, it'll be getting sent.
I love it.
Well, greetings, YouTube. With me, I have Nick Young, Velox Training Group, and sometimes I post stuff knowing it's going to get a reaction. This one, I expected it would get reaction, but I dropped a video, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. It was things that make me judge someone's rifle. And one of the things I talked about that got the most reactions wasn't really optic height, but it was muzzle device. I talked a little bit of craziness, well, honestly, about muzzle brakes. My stance is if you need to have the same tools that your clients have. So I work with mainly military and law enforcement. I'm happy to, but I don't see a lot of competition shooters for rifle shooting in classes. So I'm not going to use a gun with a muzzle brake, because if I'm on a military base shooting with people in the military, having a compensator on my tuned rifle would be a really bad look, because of course I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to demonstrate. So anyway, I'm a slave to appearances. And that was one of the things I talked to. Sorry, go
Are you
ahead.
saying that possibly a piece of gear could be tied to your skill?
Yes, absolutely.
I would say that as well. That would be bad. I don't want that either.
And then you just start shooting it at pistol distances and then showing like how great you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that stuff either.
Hypothetically. So anyway, there's a lot of people triggered, and I think we should talk through some of the comments, because you and I like read through them and we're texting back and forth. So anyway, a lot of these will be geared, I think, towards muzzle device, the thing that irritated people the most. But anyway, one of the things was, first comment I'll read, it's the A2 does not help with recoil. Then you say you don't like it because it pushes the rifle down when firing. That's literally recoil control.
No, it's not. So recoil. So something that would help recoil would be a muzzle brake, like say a dual port muzzle brake. That would make the gun recoil into your shoulder.
Kick less back into you.
Yes, it's got nothing to do with the rise. So an A2 flash hider pushes the muzzle down, but it doesn't do anything about the recoil coming back into your shoulder. YouTube comments are always off the chain.
Yeah. Next one, 3-pronged flash hiders, which happens to be my favorite, went away in the 1970s for a reason. And someone commented they came back.
I mean, I guess tell SOCOM
that. I agree. A lot of comments about have a muzzle brake to accept my silencer, threw in different buffer and charging handle, need it once suppressed, change out the stock, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people talked about the sacrificial baffle stuff for why you'd have a muzzle brake if you're going to mainly run suppressed. My understanding is it takes some of the wear off the suppressor, or makes the suppressor not work as hard.
It definitely does. Like, I have a can that I've only shot with a muzzle brake, and the blast baffle looks pretty freaking new. And then, like, I've got the Surefire Mini right here that I've only shot with flash hiders, and the blast baffle definitely has some chips taken out of it. So, but to be honest, man, like, I don't buy these things to baby them. Like, I buy it to use it. And then when it needs to be replaced, I just like bang Surefire's line, and I'm like, hey man, can you fix this? And I'm sure Surefire would be happy to fix the blast baffle if anything ever happened to it. I don't know. Some people buy stuff literally to be like a museum piece. And it's like, I get it. It was money. Like, you waited a long time to get it, but like, you got a really good one so you can use it. So you should do that. Not worry about it so much.
I agree. Some comments about one of the rifles I was showing is an ADM rifle, American Defense, and it has a 45-degree safety. Some hate for that. I don't care, honestly. If I probably had a choice, I'd prefer to have whatever the regular 90-degree safety is, just because I'm used to that and it feels more like what everyone else has. This one had the 45-degree, the quick, like the shorter throw safety. It's fine just because that's what's in the rifle and I haven't changed it, but I don't really care one way or the other.
The comment was they don't like the 60
using the 45 safety is dumb, not any faster, and they're not safe.
So I'll give you this. Being a guy who puts the safety on during reloads, this will probably, well, just that alone will probably get some hate. I can flick this thing back on without my support hand being on the gun, which is super important to me. So like, I can stick a really fast reload and I can work the safety, and it's really, really easy because with it being a 60-degree throw, I can do it with one hand. I don't need to keep my support hand on the gun to flick the safety on or off, for that matter. So to me, it's way more ergonomic. You know, if I'm going to shoot and move, like I'm going to put the safety on as I'm going to move. It's just like subconscious. Eyes come outside of the optic, safety comes on. This makes it really, really easy to put the safety on and off.
I agree. I don't have any preference one way or the other. A funny comment I thought, you see this off and on in places, things that make me judge someone else's rifle is one that was bought as a complete. A lot of people take pride in building their own rifles from parts. My 2 cents, I don't feel like everyone that does that knows what they're doing. I understand YouTube tells you it's so easy, just put them together, you can't do it wrong. But I see a lot of issues where if someone's gun fails, it's typically a gun they've assembled on themselves, not a factory anything, whether it's BCM, ADM, Hodge, Momnet, whatever you like, doesn't matter. But I feel like the factory assembled guns fail less.
Hands down, the most broken rifles that I see in classes will be a home build. And, you know, if anything is going to break in a class, it's typically not a pistol. It will always be rifles. So, like, I have a class this weekend. It's pistol rifle class. I guarantee you a rifle will break. It's almost every class. I see it. And it's usually the home builds. And it's because, at least I'm not a rifle builder. However, like, I think it's most likely because the tolerances, you know, you start putting different parts together from different companies. It's like tolerances start to stack and then get bad, right? And then stuff typically tends to break.
I just trust that the manufacturer knows more than I do.
That's the thing, man.
Change the buffer in it, maybe change the muzzle device. Other than that, I don't really mess with it a lot.
Like, you get this ADM, you don't have to do anything to it.
No.
Like, I know that this thing is going to work.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
This one might have been a little bit trolling, but I think there's a lot of questions along the same lines. Talking about the muzzle brakes. Why would you want more recoil? Is the goal to shoot your absolute best? If you can put something on your rifle and it helps, why not use it?
So I don't want my skills to be tied to a specific piece of gear.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, I want to be able to pick up any rifle and be able to freaking shred with it. I don't like. I want to be able to pick up a Colt rifle at a police department and do the exact same thing with that gun than I do with my gun. And you know, if I get used to shooting a gun that is tuned, has a muzzle brake on it, you can really, really get away with a whole lot of stuff in terms of the way that you mount it that won't be good for other things. A good example of this is, well, this will probably get people tuned up, but mounting the gun more center line like this, like more on your pec, totally viable. But what I see is, like, when I don't have a muzzle brake on the gun and I mount it more center line, it almost creates a hinge point, and I see the rifle do really, really weird stuff. The second I, you know, take the muzzle brake off and then put a flash hider on it, that's when I see the weird stuff starts to happen. And so I want to be able to figure out how to mount the gun, not based off of any sort of, like, you know, gear that's making the gun not do anything. And you could essentially turn recoil off on a rifle.
Yeah. Well, and you know, people always highlight the parts or focus on the parts that they want to get the most triggered by. One of the things I talked about, and I stand behind it, if you're shooting PCSL or any of the competitive divisions that you're allowed to have a muzzle brake, of course you're going to have whatever capability. So, for instance, right now my training cycle, I'm leaving next week to go do police department training. So I'm working with a polymer framed Walther PDP that has a light on it because that's what I'll be shooting for the next couple weeks. But if I was going to a USPSA match, of course, I'd rather have the Walther steel frame gun because it does shoot softer. I like the frame a little bit better. This one I'll be using a duty style rig. I wouldn't use that for USPSA. So it does depend on what you're training for, what you want to accomplish. If you're just interested in performance shooting, PCSL competition, then yeah, of course, having a tuned rifle, adjustable gas system, a low mass bolt carrier, a muzzle brake, all that stuff. Why would you not? Because that's what the people winning are going to have.
But Joel, you know, this is what people don't get, because I see the comments all the time like, well, oh, then why wouldn't you shoot like a 10 mil pistol? And it's like, well, any pistol is going to move. If it's a 9 mil, it's going to move. It's not like a rifle. I could take a 14.5-inch rifle, a 14.5-inch rifle that has a mid-length gas system on it, put a dual port muzzle brake like the Surefire one, and turn recoil completely off. Right? I can put adjustable gas blocks on it too to make it even less. So the gun just goes bang and doesn't do anything. And so it makes it to where it's really, really difficult to focus on the way that you're mounting the gun. I think you can do things pretty sloppy when you have a gun like that. And, you know, I think, you know, is it bad if you have a gun like that? No, I don't think either of us are saying that. However, you have to pay significantly more attention to what you're doing when you have a gun like that. For instance, if you're going to go shoot doubles with a gun that, you know, has a adjustable gas block and a muzzle brake on it, maybe you go shoot doubles at 100 yards instead of 25 to 50, like you would with like a regular, you know, 3-prong flash hider type of gun.
And I have a Surefire muzzle brake in my basement that'll be going on a rifle in the near future just to train with it and see what I can get away with. But I'll make a statement. People that I encounter that can shoot very well with a duty style gun, whatever duty means, a flash hider of some type, those people, without exception, can shoot a tuned gun very, very well, without exception.
Yep.
But I will say that people that shoot the tuned rifle really, really well cannot always shoot a plain Jane mil-spec trigger with some form of a flash hider gun. Maybe not saying the same time standards between the two, but won't be efficient on, you know, the platform that doesn't have as many bells and whistles or is more stock.
And where they won't be as good is at distance. Like shooting fast and aggressively 25 to 60, maybe even out to 100 yards. That duty style gun is, like, if they're not used to shooting it, definitely will slow them down. Whereas someone that's used to shooting that duty style gun, it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a troll or if he's being serious, but take every advantage possible that doesn't affect reliability, straight trolling for comments. That's all this video is. We all know you don't believe any of this nonsense. It exposed us as frauds. Retired airborne, doesn't care what somebody else thinks of his weapon. Somebody else said to get back to him after they don't have experience, which I don't have any experience on a two-way range, so come back and we can talk. I'm okay with not having experience being in gunfights.
The guy who said, you know, why would you care about what someone else has? I read that and I was like, no. I actually don't care what people run on their rifle. Like, I really don't. I'm sure I don't care. However, I think the group that we're trying to talk to is maybe the people that are interested in training, and maybe they're setting up a rifle to, you know, train with it. Maybe they're going to go to a class. Maybe you know, hey, I want to shoot rifles better than what I'm doing now. Like, that would be a way more advantageous setup, a duty style rifle, way more advantageous to, you know, learn on than it would be to have a gun that has a muzzle brake and all that other shit on it. But if you like a muzzle brake, I am sure that I will sleep just fine tonight.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, the next thing I want to talk about, this comment kind of ties into, muzzle brakes are probably great for competition and one-man suicide missions, but for people around you, you're just the a-hole that can't shoot and makes lots of noise. Also, you have never shot that gun in a room, likely for practical use. It's flash hiders to protect your threading or suppressors, the better move brake. So basically, I used to think muzzle brakes were cool, then he worked for a team. So anyway, I talked to some people that do law enforcement type of stuff. Anyone I've talked to, without exception, I don't know of any, I'm sure there's somebody out there, but any law enforcement agency that allows muzzle brakes, just because of how much damage they do. If you ever shoot that thing indoors, unsuppressed, it's, I don't know about, maybe not necessarily blood running out of your ears, but for sure, hearing damage, it does damage to anything around it also, from the gases and the force shooting out of it, breaking glass. So, like, it's just, you know, windows and stuff around it. It's, and then one other, I talked to, he wouldn't mind me saying this, Kyle DeFore a bit. I like Kyle, being one of his classes, well, this year, I guess, 2025. But he was saying he's going to probably outlaw putting words in his mouth, likely looking to outlaw muzzle brakes in his classes because some people going prone off cement. I won't get the right verbiage, but something with like cornea or retina or something, basically like eye damage from hitting the people next to them and with the payment and concussion, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, anytime I have a rifle class, I want to make everyone feel comfortable, but the people with the brakes, they go out to the end just because it's very unpleasant if they're in the middle of the line and there's people right next to them, just having all that stuff hitting them. It's loud.
Well, even with ear pro on, it's still like when I shot 3-gun and we had to do something like whether it was in a house or in a car, or sometimes they'd have those like big ass tubes that you'd have, big black tubes that you had to shoot out of, like throw the gun through the tube and shoot through the tube. Like I would just put double hearing protection on because it was brutal shooting in those type of situations with a muzzle brake. And I had a 3-port muzzle brake.
Yeah. So there's somebody, one of the comments, it's kind of along the same lines, but he has a 3-prong muzzle device. Would hope we would agree that as a police officer or citizen carrying a muzzle brake on their rifle for a smoother follow-up and a use of deadly force engagement or protection for their family, that it's appropriate. And I mean, it's up to you. I'm just telling you stuff I don't like. For me, if I had a home defense rifle, I would absolutely not have a muzzle brake on it because, just being real, at the distances you're likely to shoot inside your house, the muzzle brake, I don't know how big your house would be, but for any house I've encountered, the muzzle brake wouldn't make a difference enough in recoil anyway, and it would be just very damaging to you and your family's hearing if you decided to light that bad boy off inside your house.
Well, I would tell you this, that if you trained with a 3-prong flash hider and you can be fast and aggressive with that thing inside of 50, and by fast and aggressive, I mean like, I don't know, 15, 16 splits, and inside of maybe 30 yards, you're holding a softball-sized group on the target, I think it's pretty fast and accurate. I'm not sure what that muzzle brake is going to do for you inside the house in terms of being able to shoot faster. Like, I think training should be the overarching theme there, not like, hey, let me put this device on here. And that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the time it's like you have a device on your gun and that's what your skills are tied to. Like, I'd never want to do that. I don't know. And inside your house, like, I would have a suppressor.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd not have a suppressor, unless you were in like a state where you couldn't have one. But
compensators compensate for lack of skill. I thought that's kind of funny, but again, it depends on what you're doing. Being totally serious, it depends on what you're going to do. If you're in a teaching role, it's way different. If you're a performance shooter for matches, it's way different.
Exactly.
If it's for work, I would not, without exception, I would not have a muzzle brake if I was carrying a rifle as a professional to protect people. But it's, you have to do your thing.
I would disagree that they compensate for a lack of skill. Like, I don't think anyone in the comments could say that Kyle Litzy sucks at shooting.
Sure.
Right. And he has a compensator on his rifle. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I don't see that. What I'm saying, like, as an instructor, I would not want to roll around with a muzzle brake on the gun.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else good? Yeah, I don't know. That was the main stuff. I talked crazy about optic height a little bit, but no one really disagreed. My point on that was just, I think 193 is really as high as it should be. Anything above that, I just don't like it. And we've talked about this before, just because I feel like it's disconnected from the rest of my body, and I don't feel like I have as much control. So if I was going to, maybe it's not necessarily exactly the same, but if I was going to work on this pistol, I wouldn't want to work on it out here. I'd rather have it closer to me because you just feel like you have more control over it. So the same thing with a rifle, having the stock, more points of contact even, or just it feels like, I use the word like melt into my shoulder, where if the buttstock, it just feels like it belongs there, like it's a part of my arms. It feels almost magical, kind of.
I want the optic to be low enough to where when I lift it up to my face, the cheek traps the stock up here, right? Like at the shoulders is trapping the stock back here. The cheek is trapping the stock up here. I'm essentially trapping the whole ass end of the gun with my cheek and my shoulder. But if I have a really high mount, like a 2.2 or, one of the goober mounts or whatever, it's like, and you just don't have a cheek weld at all. And, I've said that on my channel before, and there's probably no less than 30 or 40 people saying like, hey, but what if a gas mask? And it's like, oh man, that's I don't know if that's a rabbit hole you want to go down, but like my opinion of it is like, if you're only shooting that gas mask 1% of the time, why are we setting the rifle up for the 1% of the time, and the 99% of the time you're suffering because of it? And two, I own a gas mask. I don't shoot with it a ton. However, I don't need a tall mount to shoot with the gas mask on. Like I could shoot with a regular, like full co-witness. You just like cant the gun a little bit and the optic gets in front of your face. It's not a huge deal. You could get a solid connection without a GBRS mount and a gas mask.
100%. Good. Well, hopefully we irritated more people. And honestly, with this, I really didn't want to irritate people. I thought there were enough people that had genuine questions about why not use a muzzle brake. So I just want to address those. And being real, like I've said a couple times, it's like mission dictates gear. So whatever you're going to do with it helps determine. For instance, if you were a hunter, and it probably wouldn't make a lot of sense for you to have a muzzle brake on it, because you're probably going to shoot one shot. You might want to not have hearing protection. So probably having a can would make more sense. If you're going to shoot at night, probably wouldn't want something that flashes a lot.
Yeah, and like I say, the last thing, we're not really talking to the people that are completely happy with the way their thing is set up, and maybe they train, maybe they don't, whatever. Like, we're talking to the people that are looking to get into shooting rifles and actually going out and training with it and becoming really, really good with it. Not the dudes who are like, I like the way it's like, hey, man, I'm glad you love it. I don't care.
How about this? For as much as I don't really love the A2 styles, like we've talked about, because it pushes down, if you buy a rifle and that's what it has on it, shoot it like that for a bit and just see what you think.
Yeah.
Because don't feel like, because those things cost something like $5 for most places. So it's no money. If it's already on your gun, just shoot it for a bit and see what you think.
I agree.
And then if you decide to buy something, like real talk, these things are expensive. Some of the Surefire muzzle devices could be $100 plus. So try somebody else's, a friend's, or maybe somebody you don't like. If you could try their rifle, even if you don't like them, give that a try and just see what you like and don't like, so you can make an educated purchase, because there's no reason to have a box of muzzle devices as you keep trying and swapping them back and forth if you don't have to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I probably have 30 muzzle devices in a box in my garage, just sitting there.
Right.
That like I bought them and I was like, this is going to be the bomb. And then I use it and I'm like, nope.
It's not the bomb.
Not the bomb.
Right. So, last piece of advice, if you have something you like it, just shoot it. And just because we think you should have some rifles set up a certain way, if you like what you have, I'm not telling people to spend their money, because,
I'm glad you like it, if you like it.
100%.
I don't have to like it. And that's the great thing about options.
Yeah. 100%. All right, well, that's all I got. I don't think we need to trigger anyone any more than we already have. Appreciate you sitting down with me, though, to go through the comments.
Yeah, of course.
And if you have even more follow-up comments about how, off base we are and how we don't know what's up, please drop those below. And then we could it'd be like Inception. It'd be a video replying to the comments and the video that was replying to the comments.
Yeah, for sure. In closing, your GBRS mount is really gay. Tell us why it's not.
Demonetized. And if you like Nick or want to see more of Nick's it's Velox Training Group on YouTube. He's got a bunch of videos also. So the same type of stuff, talking about gear and some shooting stuff and some technique stuff. We have a class dump on there. So anyway, there's a bunch more material if you like Nick and want to hear from him more. So anyway, appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime.